トビデオ
2 years ago, I celebrated my 100th video of this show with an hour-long retrospective on the Project A-ko franchise. Quite possibly one of the most important anime to have come out in the OVA era in the 1980s. Focused on the conflict between best friends A-ko and C-ko against the jealous B-ko, Project A-ko was a big-budget parody of the popular anime and tokusatsu shows released around that time period. While this made it quite popular in its home country, in the States, it became a very influential cult hit. For many people in the 90s, the A-ko series was their first exposure to Japanese anime, showing what kind of maximalist action a team of animators can do compared to what was being done on TV at the time. To this end, it was one of the first sparks that helped set off the boom of anime VHSs, which became valuable boons for their distributors, such as A-ko's American distributor, Central Park Media. Central Park Media was the house that A-ko built. It owed a lot to that 1986 anime title, more so than that other 80s anime that was its company mascot. But the powers that be at CPM knew that A-ko was a huge deal for them, and that sure as hell made them keep an eye on its creators to see what they would do next. In particular, the main brain behind A-ko, Katsuhiko Nishijima. By the late 90s, CPM soon got their answer to a potential spiritual successor to Project A-ko in the form of Nishijima and his Studio Fantasia produced anime, Asian Aika, a sci-fi action romp that was defined solely by Nishijima's creative boarding, where he tried to cram as many panty shots as he could in one outing. While not having the same impact as A-ko did, it nevertheless did stir up intrigue, especially with the sheer number of white cotton-clad booty you saw before you. Because even though the internet was around in that time, bandwidth was the bane of many aspiring perverts. Therefore, an anime defined by wall-to-wall panty shots still had a place in the world, a fact that was helped by Agent Aika still maintaining a lot of that fast-paced A-ko energy. Agent Aika moved enough units that CPM immediately sprang for Nishijima and Fantasia's newest OVA release, hoping for roughly the same results. But if Aika was the follow-up to A-ko, what about the follow-up to the follow-up?
Who is it? What's up?
Galen is a heroic samurai of the Sengoku period, slashing through villainous swordsmen and rescuing damsels in distress from evil, corrupt magistrates. At least that's what he is in his head. In reality, Galen is a hyperactive Russian weeaboo with ambitions to become a katana-wielding samurai that are as bad as big as the thickness of his skull.
This one looks like it's had it. I wish a real sword would just fall down from the damn sky!
Despite this, or maybe because of it, Galen has managed to land himself a Japanese girlfriend, Natsu. But Natsu is not just any Japanese girlfriend, she is actually a princess from a very powerful family. Powerful enough that she has her own handmaiden, the incredibly protective yet incredibly anemic Kasumi.
I don't think it's so important, but what if I am?
But you really must not! You are a lady who's supposed to be getting married! Please do behave yourself! Uh-oh, I'm having a dizzy spell.
Natsu, seeing that her idiot boyfriend has broken another one of his plastic swords, decides to gift him an ancient short sword that is also an ancient family heirloom. In the process, Natsu also invites Galen to stay with her family at their compound, both to introduce her new beau to her father, and to also make her case as to why she's giving their important sword to him.
So, Father, do you understand why you have to approve my marriage to Galen?
No! What did you think? Did you think I would approve it? Are you nuts? No way, Jose! Ha!
Hey!
But after a quick skydiving to the compound, the three soon learn that Galen is not the only guest coming to dinner that weekend. There's also Dantanoshin, a stately pretty boy who has been arranged by Natsu's father to marry her, and his guest Carrie, a photojournalist who wishes to document the one-of-a-kind Japanese palace on a Russian island. Guess where she's from?
I'm Carrie. I'm a freelance reporter. Glad to meet you.
But if you think this is going to be a mere Meet the Parents style comedy, hold your horses. When night falls, strange goings-on begin to take shape, as the sword Natsu has gifted Galen takes the center stage as the mysterious MacGuffin of the evening. Oh, and I would be remiss to say that there are, in fact, a lot of panties in this anime. Panties, and more panties.
Kick his butt! Woo!
Released at the turn of the millennium, Labyrinth of Flames is an offbeat little trinket. Despite the liberal presence of undergarments, it's a different sort compared to its predecessors Project A-ko and Agent Aika. Those two were careful balances between goofy comedy, electrifying action, and suggestive fan service, one having that trait more than the other, I will concede. Labyrinth of Flames, meanwhile, opts to be way more of a bawdy comedy than a straightforward action set-piece extravaganza with a Victoria's Secret catalog inserted in between the storyboards. If anything, it's no longer pretending to be anything more than a vehicle for what's underneath the tiny miniskirts. But that can't be all there is. This is from the mind of Project A-ko after all. Despite its overall broad nature that continued to widen as the series went on, Nishijima always struck me as way more creatively ambitious than the average pinup peddler. Even in a lowbrow work like this, Nishijima's name signals to me that there's something to be salvaged within these cells. Plus, curiosity has gotten the best of me. Out of all of Fantasia's panty-driven OVAs, Labyrinth of Flames appears to be the least discussed out of all of them. You would honestly be forgiven for thinking that Nishijima was suffering a dry period between Aika and a future video subject with how little people talk about it. Well, you know me, I can't leave any stone unturned in my anime history studies. The Labyrinth of Flames analysis begins now, and I assure you viewer, I will be very thorough in my research. We begin right at the end of Agent Aika's production cycle. In a 2000 interview, Nishijima said that the making of Aika had left him burnt out and creatively spent. This was par for the course after finishing projects according to him, but he said this time it was really bad. He couldn't come up with a new project pitch idea even if he tried. This delay in a new production made Studio Fantasia's main bagman, Bandai Visual, antsy. Soon, one of their producers got sick of waiting and told Nishijima, "We're making a historical drama next." And that's where it began. But history was not Nishijima's forte. On top of that, he felt that such a genre piece would bring it too close to being similar to Aika. For as much gags and sexual overtones as the series had, Aika was, at the end of the day, still an action anime. Nishijima wanted to be more true to his roots from his days of working on Urusei Yatsura and make something more gag-driven. One of the first big creative decisions made was to get away from the female protagonist of previous Nishijima-helmed productions to a male one. While he did not deny that girls could be silly, he felt that having a protagonist be a big buffoon would be more suited for this type of comedy he was aiming for, with the surrounding female cast adding some spice to the proceedings. A samurai protagonist had been decided from the start, but Nishijima tweaked him until he became the character known as Galen. Him being Russian was also part of another major creative decision. Thanks to their close proximity, Russia and Japan have had quite a bit of history with each other. Both countries participated in suppressing the Boxer Rebellion, both wished to expand their empires into Korea and Manchuria, leading to the Russo-Japanese War, and there's also the ongoing Kuril Islands dispute, where Russia has laid claim to islands traditionally belonging to Japan's native Ainu people. In spite of that rocky history though, there has been a certain level of cultural exchange between the two nations, right down to having native Russians be voice actors in anime. There are two reasons why Russia was chosen to be the setting for Labyrinth of Flames. One is that character designer and animation director Noriyasu Yamauchi had a huge obsession with Russia, particularly their military hardware. This stemmed from being a kid in Hokkaido in the 1970s and bearing witness to the defection of Viktor Belenko, an event where a Soviet pilot landed his MiG-25P Foxbat at the Hakodate airport to switch sides, inflaming tensions between Japan and the Soviet Union. Another reason is that having it set in Russia would make the anime stand out a little more, giving it a unique signifier, one that is held by a lot of the Eastern Russia landscape being similar to the Hokkaido environment courtesy of the two regions' geographical closeness. Nishijima's main goal with Labyrinth of Flames was that he really wanted to get back to experimenting with humor. He felt that part of his repertoire had atrophied after nearly 20 years in the business, and that he really needed to stretch. Nishijima felt that, with the open space to tweak and fool around in, he could probably venture into new frontiers of humor.
Oh, you're becoming more and more like your late mother yet!
Then again, okay, before we even begin to talk about all of that, let's start with Labyrinth of Flames' overall presentation. For as much hullabaloo the creators gave about how much of a big stinking deal it was to set their Japanese anime in Russia, you don't really get a feel for that. The Russian landscape consists of mostly barren mountainscapes, with most of the action taking place either in a very Japanese compound or the emptiest university on the face of the planet. If it wasn't for the anime telling us that this is taking place in Russia and the Soviet Union marching song that is playing over pans of cheesecake in the end credits, you'd think that this would be taking place anywhere in Japan, not Russia. But maybe it's a necessary evil because the character animation is way better than you would expect for a mid-tier ecchi OVA. Give it up for Noriyasu Yamauchi and his team because they were not gonna slum it for this anime. They pull everything from their bag of tricks to make this anime both humorous yet still action-packed. Take this cold open scene, which is a deliberate riff of the Shanbara genre with its monochromatic color scheme, intense dark shadows, and the splashes of red blood. It almost could give you an idea of what they initially started with before Nishijima decided to make it a comedy. Beyond that, the animation of the characters is really where a lot of the anime's best qualities reside. Characters are equally comfortable in being blazing hot comic book heroes as well as physical comedians. In one scene, they could be having an intense sword battle trading fast and hard blows that can almost make the screen shake, and in the other, they are utilizing their best squash and stretch techniques. The overall cartoony nature fits with the nature of the dub. While I have no quarrel with the original Japanese, I do want to highlight Labyrinth's dub as the kind you rarely see anymore. The actors are clearly goofing around and are given a wide berth in the direction department, but they deliver all their lines with such conviction that it actually helps some of the jokes land. I think we can hand it to the casting. CITED didn't get their normal stable of interns to voice it like they did with Aika. No, they actually got some of their members of their A team to do the voices, like Eric Stewart and Jessica Calvello. Eric Stewart in particular is well suited for his role, especially since it's just him playing Samurai Gowri.
Sorry, you're out of luck. You can't beat my genuine force. I'm too good.
And while it might sound like the actors are doing the MGS3 Death of Stalin conceit of not bothering with the Russian accents, there is some here, most of which come from one of the bad ladies of the anime.
Sorry, pal, your sword is mine now.
But Galen does come through with his Huski whenever he calls his attacks.
Ha! Comrade Gagarin, Earth is blue! 1, 9, 6, 1! Vostok re-enters the atmosphere! Genuine sword thrust!
5, 4, 3, 1, off blast!
Am I missing anything else?
That was a really close call. What the hell?
Oh yes, what we really came here for. While I think a lot of the fan service is toned down compared to what we saw in Aika, hard to believe I know, a lot of Nishijima's creative boarding is still in play. Nearly the entire female cast is wearing short skirts sans long jackets, and the only one who doesn't gets at least a token removal of clothes. Really, I can't help but be impressed with how much Nishijima is willing to show what's between those legs without actually showing what's between those legs. While boob bounces exist, the focus is on the legs and the posterior the majority of the time, and that's where the camera will go. Strangely enough, a lot of the fan service feels less for titillation and more in the service of humor. Nishijima is firm in his belief that both male and female characters have the potential to be silly. So even when the cute girls are showing off their seats, there's a level of comedy to how the fan service is executed.
Please, Lady Natsu, won't you just step on me and cross over? Please, I want you to feel free, Lady Natsu.
I guess gender equality could also be a factor as to why there's a lot of boner jokes and male nudity for humor's sake as well.
Huh? What the hell's going on?
As for the main story, well, it's only really there to get to the gags. There's actually quite a bit of setup to get to the area where we will be having our sexy comedy of errors for the night. It has to set up Galen and his desire to be an awesome samurai weeaboo. It has to set up his relationship with Natsu, her relationship with Galen, and why the sword she gives him is so important. And once we get to the compound, we also got to introduce the father, the romantic rival, the aunt, the two suspicious ladies that Natsu's father is having a tryst with, and the mysterious American reporter lady who just happens to be in the neighborhood. And then
they're on a collision course with wackiness.
Any story this anime has is all just ingredients for a whole mess of shenanigans, hijinks, and tomfoolery to break out, with sexy results. So really, Galen trying to curry his future father-in-law's favor, the secret plot of a duo of sexy thieves trying to steal the sacred sword, and the twist of Miss Carey being an undercover Interpol agent after the aforementioned thieves are not all important in the grand scheme of things. This becomes obvious when you learn that Nishijima was just improvising and experimenting with his storyboards with this anime. As I said a few minutes ago, Nishijima really wanted to get back to his roots by trying to do what he had done on Urusei Yatsura, and that was mostly crafting jokes up on the fly and tweaking them later, with only a very basic plot as his playgrounds. This can explain why a lot of the humor has a very throw everything at the wall and see what sticks feel to it. I feel the batting average of these gags are 50-50. Most of them are your trusty old antique gags that are thankfully buoyed by some stellar boarding and animation. In other words, I hope you like seeing characters make funny reaction faces or Galen falling down and going boom. But there is some ingenuity to some of these, like how when Galen puts the sacred short sword in his mouth to protect it, only to accidentally end up swallowing it, and that ends up paying off in the final gag of the OVA. And then there's the hilariously out there solution of how our heroes deal with the sexy thieves' magic attack puppets, by the power of Samurai Tank!
Shoot and shoot and shoot till you drop!
Let's go, partner!
Yeah, let's blow them to smithereens!
Somebody's channeling their inner Shutaro Mendo, but then there are the other jokes that are about as funny as Dostoevsky. Natsu's father's whole deal is not only is he not a fan of Galen, but he is also a bog standard anime pervert archetype taken to extremes, even towards his own flesh and blood daughter. And even if he does receive physical punishment for this behavior, Nishijima ends up taking this to a whole weird area.
What you're doing now only gives him pleasure. Useless.
Yeah, Natsu, my dear. Whip me some more. Harder! Harder! Harder!
See?
The overall uneven quality of the jokes can be encapsulated in the character of Kasumi. Nishijima said that while he was trying to focus more on the male protagonist as the center of the goofiness, he ended up really falling for Kasumi as a potential joke machine. Sure, she's obviously a ripoff of Excel Saga's Hyatt, with her sickly nature being played for laughs, but she does shine for almost the entire runtime. Her overprotectiveness to Lady Natsu, in spite of her feeble disposition, makes her both the perfect silly character, the perfect straight man, and the perfect prop.
What a faithful servant I am, sacrificing myself in order to protect Lady Natsu. Gosh, it makes me almost want to sing my own praises. Oh, another dizzy spell.
And that's not getting into the joke where she is able to save the lives of others simply because she got special ninja juice in her IV bag. But after that, the rest of the anime's runtime is devoted to Kasumi kidnapping Dantanoshin and holding him hostage in her own misery-style situation. Which makes sense for the story, since both being more competent fighters than Galen allows them to have his hero moment in the end in their absence. I just wish it didn't turn Kasumi into a creep and have her subplot end on a massively sour note of implied sexual assault. And that's all I can say about Labyrinth of Flames. I can see how this was Nishijima trying to experiment and get back to a more gag-focused anime after a period of burnout. And his direction alongside Yamauchi's animation does make this anime feel more than just tawdry ecchi filler. You can see that this had the hands of the man behind Project Eiko. But Labyrinth of Flames reminds me more of the latter entries in the Eiko franchise. With a kitchen sink approach to gag writing, it becomes a smattering of hits and misses. And when the jokes whiff, boy do they ever whiff. But I guess there are worse ways to kill an hour. Nishijima certainly had a vision for how he wanted this project executed, and I think he pulled it off for the most part. It's entirely up to the viewer if that vision is worth viewing or not. One can only hope they're a fan of the booty. Well, it was more straightforward than I thought, but we can consider this Labyrinth solved. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.
You and me gets higher and higher. Only thing can stop us is flat tire.
Please, Lady Natsu. Natsu, won't you just step on me and cross over? Please, I want you to feel free, Lady Natsu. Please, oh, please.